Hello to everyone. Today, we are exploring a topic that sits at the modern intersection of religious tradition, economic reality, and ministerial ethics. Specifically, we are analyzing the practice of ministers charging fees or creating premium access tiers for individuals to attend their events. The core justification often presented for this practice is logistical. The speaker or ministry is personally covering venue rentals, travel, and production costs without local church backing. However, this creates a profound tension when compared to historical foundations. In the scriptures and the early church, we see no precedent for entry fees, ticketed ministry, or VIP sections, to see figures like Peter or Paul. Today, we will objectively break down both sides of this argument, examining the historical theological objections and the modern operational defenses, so we can better understand this contemporary debate. 1. The case against entry fees. Historical and scriptural precedents. Critics of ticketed ministry ground their arguments in the foundational texts and practices of the early Christian church. They highlight 4 key areas where modern charging departs from historic tradition. The lack of biblical precedent. The New Testament details extensive travel by the apostles. Yet, nowhere in the book of Acts or the epistles do we find Paul, Peter, or Jesus requiring an upfront fee or registration cost to hear them speak or receive ministry. The mandate of free ministry. Opponents frequently point to the explicit command of Jesus in Matthew 10:8, "Freely you have received, freely give." The argument here is that spiritual gifts, prayer, and the gospel are divine provisions that must never be commercialized or placed behind a paywall. The prohibition of favoritism. The concept of premium seating or VIP access directly collides with the structural ethics of the early church. James 2:1-4 explicitly rebukes the practice of giving preferential seating to the wealthy while relegating the poor to the back or the floor. The model of self-support tent-making. When funding was scarce, the early church leaders did not charge the crowd. Instead, Paul engaged in tent-making, performing manual labor to fund his own travel and lodging, Acts 18:3. When he did accept financial aid, it came in the form of voluntary, retroactive donations from established partner churches, Philippians 4:15-16, never as a mandatory entry fee for seekers. 2. The case for entry fees. Modern operational realities. Conversely, proponents of ticketing argue that the scale and legal economic infrastructure of the 21st century require different financial mechanisms than the first century. Their defense rests on 4 practical and theological points. The right to compensation. Proponents argue that Scripture supports a minister's right to financial sustainability. They cite 1 Corinthians 9:14, "The Lord has commanded that those who preach the gospel should receive their living from the gospel," and 1 Timothy 5:18, "The worker deserves his wages." Mitigation of financial risk. Hosting an event outside of a traditional local church requires renting commercial venues, securing liability insurance, hiring audiovisual technicians, and providing security. Ticketing shifts the financial model from an unpredictable post-event offering to a predictable pre-event budget, ensuring vendors are legally paid. Category distinction. Service versus event. Defenders argue that a ticketed conference, masterclass, or seminar is not a standard church service. They view it as an specialized educational or spiritual event, making it more akin to a Christian concert or book release, where commercial standards are widely accepted. Crowd control and safety. For highly visible public figures, free admission can lead to dangerous overcrowding, building code violations, and chaotic lines. Charging a fee or requiring registration acts as a logistical tool to manage venue capacity, track attendance, and ensure public safety. In conclusion, the core tension. Ultimately, this debate exposes a fundamental tension between historical theological ideals and modern organizational logistics. One side asks, how can we claim to follow the pattern of Christ and the apostles if we gatekeep ministry behind financial barriers? The other side asks, how can we practically execute large-scale, professional events in a modern economy without secure, upfront funding? As communities navigate this, the central challenge remains finding a balance, ensuring that practical administrative needs do not inadvertently compromise the core message of accessibility that defined the early church.